The following is intended only for mature audience. Viewer and listener discretion is advised.
Hey folks, P. Basardo here, and you're listening to the Smoke Free Radio Network.
Not only is he my bail bondsman,
Everybody say hello to Mr.
The actual only third way in our country right now.
I'm going to try to actually talk a little bit and maybe not get
some videos. And, you know, like the ones a lot of the ones that really...
I mean, in their mind, they're revolutionary, force, right? And I mean, obviously to get rid of standard.
It's crazy to me, and I feel like Big Tobacco's sitting there laughing. They're like, this is
right. I don't claim to know a lot of stuff when it comes to advocacy. I don't really...
They're calling this an epidemic. We're in the middle of the third wave.
Yeah, such as VSFA, such as Big Ramsey.
oh wow, it's like that.
With any issue, right? Everybody has their preconceived bias, and anything you throw at them might move them a little bit, but they're going to be anchored.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Vaping in the Mic. Late in the evening this evening, because the person that we're going to be connecting with this evening is on the other side of the planet. And thankfully, because of all this wonderful magic called the internet, we're able to connect with this gentleman. And we're going to be talking tonight about the things that are happening in Australia. And you're going to hear things, I believe, you're going to hear things that you're going to say, damn, that sounds an awful lot like what's happening here around home. But this evening, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to put him here just real quick. Please welcome Paul Blamire. Paul, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing really, really well, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. It's just one of those kinds of things, just duking it out as we go along. And I've got to get reaccustomed to my little push-button boxes and things like that. What I want to do is there was an interview that you did with, I believe, a local news media outlet, and it was on a show called Current Affair. And it's a longer interview, but I'm going to play this for people because they need to hear what's happening and what's going on down there. So we're going to kind of sit off to the side here just a little bit, and we're going to watch what's happening with this.
It's been billed as a safe alternative to cigarettes, maybe a way to give up smoking, but is vaping a whole new health risk?
For some, it's a saviour.
My breathing's a whole lot better. I'm not wheezing anymore.
Switching to vaping is the most effective quitting method.
Another death. But for others, it's deadly.
Nobody should touch them. No.
I'm just trying to share my story and save people's lives.
So just how safe are e-cigarettes? Are they getting a new generation hooked?
A teenage epidemic of nicotine addiction.
And whose advice can we trust?
Do you not think that your position is compromised at all?
I can see people would think that.
Tonight, we clear the smoke around the great vape debate. As it gains momentum around the world, what does it all mean for Australians?
Paul Blamire has switched to vaping after smoking cigarettes for 30 years.
How many were you smoking a day?
At the end, 40 to 50, some days 60. I'd roll a cigarette in bed before I even get up, start smoking, and then get on with my day.
But 4 years ago, he got a frightening wake-up call.
Both lungs were affected, emphysema, left lung especially, stage 2, early stage 3 emphysema, right lung was stage 2. And I thought, what am I going to do now?
The 50-year-old's vaping passion is now a full-time job, mixing flavoured e-liquids for companies around the world.
You're looking here at chocolate custards, you're looking at...
Salted caramel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You name it, there's so many in here.
And he says his health has improved drastically.
Do you believe that vaping saved your life?
I'll go as far as saying that, yeah.
Definitively proving that vaping is safe, we're a very, very long way from that, and in fact the evidence seems to be going the other way.
Terry Slevin from the Public Health Association of Australia isn't so convinced of the benefits of e-cigarettes.
Now, the only things that we should inhale into our lungs is clean air. We shouldn't be inhaling tobacco smoke, certainly, but we certainly shouldn't be inhaling this cornucopia of chemicals that make up vaping vials.
Vaporisers, vapes or e-cigarettes are battery-powered devices that heat a liquid, usually containing nicotine, into an aerosol for inhaling. They've become an increasingly popular alternative to traditional cigarettes because they're considered safer and cheaper. However, vaping nicotine is illegal in Australia without a prescription.
Do you want to be hit by a 10-tonne truck or a 3-tonne truck? Let's not assume that these things are safe until we're sure, until it's proven.
The vape space is booming, estimated to be worth $16 billion globally in 2018. And even big tobacco is cashing in. Over the past decade, Philip Morris International has spent close to $9 billion developing smoke-free products. While in Australia, it's believed at least 240,000 people are using e-cigarettes.
They're marketing tiramisu, strawberry, any dessert flavour you can think of. I mean, it's a repeat of what the tobacco companies did only about 20 years ago when they were selling flavoured cigarettes.
Public health advocate Dr. John Cunningham believes the e-cigarette industry is aggressively targeting teenagers.
95% of smokers get their nicotine addiction before the age of 24. Now, that's why the tobacco companies desperately want people to take up vaping.
Even if kids just go from not smoking to vaping, bad news. If they go from vaping to smoking, even worse news.
Don't vape.
Ending up on life support.
The potential risks have made headlines around the world.
And now a sixth person has died linked to e-cigarettes.
Well, tonight we have some breaking news from Carmel up north, where vaping in most public places there is now against the law.
But Colin Mendelsohn from the Australian Tobacco Harm Reduction Association, or ATHRA, denies there is a teen vaping epidemic in America.
There are currently 50 million vapers in the world. There have been no reports of serious harm from vaping. Not one death in that time.
Well, there have been 6 deaths reported in the United States linked to vaping, as well as hundreds of illnesses. What do you attribute those to?
Well, it's not to do with nicotine vaping. And that's really important to make that distinction. What they've now found in the US is that these people have purchased illicit, contaminated THC or cannabis oil from street dealers.
That finding has not been confirmed.
Well, he must know something that the people in the US still don't know. They're dying of a condition called lipoid pneumonia, which is a rare disease in young people. What we know is that it's linked to vaping both with nicotine and THC.
A recent survey by the Cancer Council found 13% of teenagers in Australia have already tried e-cigarettes. The average age of the vapers getting sick in America is 19. America's Food and Drug Administration is still investigating, but its advice in the meantime is to stop smoking e-cigarettes.
Look past the spin, look past the deception, and make your choices based on good evidence, not the marketing spin that's deceptive from these companies.
ATHRA is a non-profit organisation which claims to be independent.
On your organisation, ATHRA, do you have any links to vaping companies or to big tobacco?
None whatsoever.
Well, in 2018, actually, you took $17,500 from vaping companies. That represented 89% of your funding that year. Would you call that a link?
That was linked, but the fact is that to set up a charity is very expensive. We spent about $60,000. We felt it was worth taking that risk to be able to set up a charity to advocate for smokers, to help save lives. And yes, people will make that connection.
But by having received almost 90% of your seed funding from vaping companies, do you not think that your position is compromised at all?
I can see people would think that, but on the other hand, we had the choice of doing that or not setting up a charity at all.
It's incredibly easy for underage children to access vaping products. They're stocked in convenience stores like this one around the country. Well, that was easy. For $70, we got a vaporizer and flavoured e-liquid. This is Rainbow Lollipop. And if you want nicotine to go with that, all you have to do is go online.
We bought these nicotine cartridges online for $20. They were shipped from the US within a week, but that could be about to change.
A lot of people think vaping is wonderful, it's great. It's really not wonderful. That's one thing I think we can say definitely.
President Donald Trump has moved to ban flavoured e-cigarettes in America, but here in Australia, where there have been no deaths linked to vaping, there's a push to make them legal.
The problem is people can access vaping, but many people won't because it's illegal. And I think if we freed it up and allowed those people to access it with appropriate regulation and protection, as they have in the UK, we'll get the best of both worlds. We'll let people who can't quit have access, and we'll restrict access to young people.
I find it ironic that you can import it, you can import nicotine liquids, but we're not allowed to manufacture or to supply clients here in Australia. I think it's stupid.
But supporters of vaping here will have a fight on their hands.
I certainly wouldn't want to be the one that opened the floodgates to a whole new generation of nicotine addicts.
Tobacco giant Philip Morris declined our request for a formal interview but provided answers to the questions we sent them. You can read those and a statement from the Health Minister on our website.
Oh my God.
Ooh, close.
It is like the only thing that I can say to some of that. Like, what the hell's going on? And has it been like this? How bad is it down there in Australia or over there?
On a daily basis, it's actually getting worse because, pardon me, the information that's coming from the United States is actually hindering what we've been trying to do in the background. You've got two news agencies, one being Fox, and by the way, our media here is actually controlled 70% by the Murdoch group.
Oh, man.
So, yeah. So it's already one-sided before we even get there. And then you roll Bloomberg into that on top of it, and we're butting our heads against a brick wall.
Some of the things that they said tried to hit, I don't know if they tried to go for a balanced piece of educational documentary or what. But
well,
in your estimation, because you live there, because it is in your country, how many points of bullshit would you say were in what we just watched?
85%. Does that count?
Yeah, that counts like a whole lot. Now, you can't manufacture with nicotine, but you can buy online and have nicotine delivered, yes?
Correct.
In bulk amounts?
Well, what we consider a bulk amount to the government, that's completely different. But to actually possess nicotine in Australia, you actually need to hold a prescription. So it's a double-edged sword, whichever way you look at it. And then you're only meant to have a 3-month supply of nicotine base for personal use. You can't gift it, you can't sell, you can't do any of this. It's draconian. That's the only word I can use, draconian. Yeah.
It's the right word. That they'll allow you to purchase any kind of closed pod system that has nicotine and have it delivered to your home.
Correct.
Do you still have to have a prescription to own that?
Look, the amount of problems that we've got with that now starting to appear, pods are becoming more and more. As soon as the salt craze really took off in the United States, probably 12 to 18 months ago, we started seeing a few pods here and there, but there were people experimenting with liquids for MTL or mouth-to-lung devices and working with salt nic instead of using freebase. that's one thing that we're seeing. But this is the other question. A lot of these pod systems that they're bringing in, the ones that they tried blanking out in the picture, we know what they were. They were dual.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously they're coming from the United States into Australia, and they're getting here within a week via the postal system. And in that interview, there was one key part. We're going to clamp down on it. And how are they going to do that? Because we're already on the other side of the planet. What, are they going to shut down all our borders, or are they going to go through all our mail? What is the real story here? No one seems to know, yet the government's lying to the public about smoking figures. That's for a start. The smoking decline has actually plateaued. It hasn't dropped for a couple of years now. The figures that they're releasing are somewhere, around the 12% to 14% mark of the Australian population smoke, of like combustibles. But in certain areas, it's starting to spike, and it's actually starting to grow in certain states because of the pressure the government's putting on us. You have like really lower socioeconomic, where it's upwards of between 20 and 40% of the population in those areas that are actually still smoking. Yet the price of combustible cigarettes here in Australia is anywhere between $35 and $50 a pack.
Now, is that Australian, or is that a conversion into US?
No, that's Australian dollars. It's about $35 US a pack.
You're joking.
No, serious.
Good God.
Yeah. It's...
How much of that is taxation?
The majority of it, actually. You look at our population here, and you're looking around 26 million here in Australia. Yet we collect $17 billion a year in tax revenue from combustibles. Yet only 200 million of that is actually put into NRTs, like nicotine replacement and HRT. But that's a whole nother side of the industry. That's not us, that's pharma. And they've got their heels in here in Australia and within the government so deep it's not funny. The corruption is rife in this country, but no one's willing to speak out about it.
All right, I'm going to ask you an odd kind of question, because it sounds like your government there and our government here are cousins of sorts.
Yep.
Because corruption is like horrible, absolutely horrible. And nobody's speaking out about the vaping problem, because if I'm looking at this correctly, in much the same way that it is here in the United States, the vast majority of people either don't vape or don't smoke, so they just don't care.
Correct.
So there's this huge group that is so apathetic to what's going on, and they're the voting bloc, and the only thing that they hear is what they hear or see on the news, the little sound bites that says, oh, little Sally got sick from vaping, and it's not true. And the one doctor in that interview turned around and said, look, it's not from nicotine vaping product.
Correct.
Now, here's another question that I have. Here in the States, we have, the media would exclaim, we have a huge problem, and 400 and some cases of people, lung illness, this, and garbage, that. Are you experiencing the same thing there? I mean, do you have people racking up in the hospital going, oh my God, I've got a lung illness? Or do you not see the same thing happening there that we're seeing here?
No, we're not seeing the same thing here as such. Here in Western Sydney, where I live, those carts are actually appearing. But so far, there haven't been issues with them. If we were to have a death from the same type situation as what's going on in the United States right now, the government here would just pretty much shut our borders, and anything that we had, that's what we'd be sitting on. They would screw us over, no end. But we don't see the same issues. Yet that piece that was just shown is that they're trying to say that, and even one of the doctors, and by the way, one of the doctors in that interview was originally from the Cancer Council Australia, and we know who they're funded by. That's all pharma. That's all pharma money, right?
Yep, pharma and big tobacco.
And then the other doctor that was in that interview, he's actually an orthopedic surgeon. What the fuck have you got an orthopedic surgeon speaking on like lung illnesses and issues? How does this even work? He works with bones, not lungs.
Yeah.
Wrong department.
Yeah. He works on joints.
Yeah. Correct.
No pun intended.
He probably smokes a few in his off hours anyway.
Wouldn't surprise me. So you have the ability, and in those drawers behind you. Now, folks, the last time that Paul was on the show, if you go back and look at any of the video feed that we had at that point in time, Paul had a desk, and there it was littered nicely and arranged nicely, but it had vaping equipment all over the place. Bottles of juice, mods. I mean, after the show, he turned around and he's going, yeah, I've got this mod. And in the same chair, swiveled around, grabbed like 18 different things. This time, take a look behind him, and you don't see any of that. And I'm like, so I asked him, and I'll ask you again, what the hell happened to all your equipment?
Oh, it's actually out of mind, out of sight. But here in Australia, for argument's sake, I'm a liquid developer. I actually do work for an international flavour company as well, on top of it. And here in Australia, in New South Wales and in Victoria, you're not meant to have things on show. And because I work in the industry, it's, out of mind, out of sight. So I took it upon myself, after speaking to the health department here, to actually hide everything, because I do live shows and things like that. So I don't want to get into trouble by the government, even though I'm going to throw them under the bus today. And that's what I'm here for. I'm sick and tired of how the narrative is going here. We can't do anything.
No, it sounds very much like we're in the same boat, different sides, and somebody's cracking the whip and say row the oars. But it's the same effect that to not be able to even mix your own liquid without a damn prescription blows my mind. What the hell is with that?
Well, it goes back to, who's making the money out of this? That's how I see it. They want us to go and see a doctor to get a prescription for nicotine that we have to either import or we buy through a compounding pharmacy here in Australia. That's some hideous amount of money. And it's nicotine that's already flavoured with some horseshit ingredient that we don't even know what the fuck it is, right? And I'm sorry, I don't agree with that.
So they're selling you nicotine that you don't even know what's in the nicotine anymore.
Well, I'd like to see the MSDS sheet on it, please. I'd like to see the breakdown of what they're selling. But they can't provide that for you as such. They just say it's safe for you.
Yeah. Yeah, bullshit.
I don't
Now, I had read some news articles and things like that. Are they trying to create the same bullshit flavor ban material there that they're doing here?
Not so much in Australia yet, but New Zealand is starting to show that. You have a senator over there, similar to your senators, but you have someone in New Zealand right now that is trying to push through flavour bans. we're fighting back on that front as well. You know, our brothers in arms over there, we're trying to give them a hand the best way we know how. But if they came after us here in Australia because we're so isolated and they cut off our flavour supply, we'd be in all kinds of trouble. We have around 250,000 vapors here in Australia, spread throughout the whole country, which is a very small percentage.
Let me ask so that people have some well-rounded idea. How many citizens are in Australia, country proper?
Around 26 million.
Okay. For people to get a grasp and an understanding, just so they can differentiate, there's around 330 million people in the United States. Maybe 380, somewhere in there. But they're experiencing, and all of this has been begun and driven, well, I can't say that primarily for some of the things, but the effects that the FDA and the CDC are doing are being felt worldwide. And I'm sure that New Zealand is picking up on it. I've already seen it in news in India, where they're turning around and they're saying, hey, the CDC in America is saying don't do this, so we're going to say the same thing. And it's all to drive people back to smoking. And it has nothing to do with nicotine vaping at all.
No, nothing at all, because, look, I've said this a lot on different shows that I've been on, but the genie's out of the bottle now. I'm sorry, but we've upended their little apple cart and we've caused the tobacco industry to, you know, double down on everything. Pick on the smaller countries and try and wipe them out. Try and wipe out vaping there. So our tax dollars or the profits go back into paying off or paying part of the MSA agreement. Right? That's part of it. Second to that, you have pharmaceutical companies that they're hurting. They're really hurting because of what we've done to them. We're not using NRT products. We're not running around and buying a box of gum. We're not, you know, using sprays or patches or, you know, pills that you want to ram up your back door for, you know, better argument on that one, because I've tried all of it and it doesn't work. Why do we need to go down a pathway that does not work?
Here's an odd question, and you're right, because that, why would we do something that has an 85% failure rate? And that's what NRT products are, if not more.
Well,
you talk
87% is the figure that comes to mind with me, because, you know, I dive into a lot of stuff and I do a lot of homework and I'll call it out for what it is.
Oh, that's the way it should be.
Right now, vaping, on the other hand, like whether it be open systems, pod systems, mouth-to-lung systems, whatever you want to do, we're looking at a 70% success rate. Oops.
Yeah. Compared to, what was the other success rate for NRT?
Oh, that's 87% failure.
Yeah. So it's like
go
15,
figure it out.
13 to 15% success compared to...
Or, if you want to go down the pathway of Chantix, we have actually our coroner here in Victoria that's actually looking into 50 deaths associated with suicides. Some of them are actually starting to show that it was from Chantix. Doctor prescribed Chantix. Oh, and by the way, Mr. Gottlieb, if you're listening, sorry, Scotty too hotty, but you're the one that removed the warning label from the Chantix, and then bada bing, you do that for Pfizer Corporation, and then you get a seat on the board. Oh, fuck's sake.
See, this is why I love talking to you, Paul, because you know a lot of things that are happening here in the United States, and you have absolutely no bones. And there are a lot of people here in the States, but you've got no bones. Yet for a foreigner, if I can put it that way, that has a good grasp on what's happening and is willing to tell people, hey, here's the middle finger. What do you think about that? You know?
Look, I'm not, as I said, and you know me well enough, Mike, and a lot of the listeners know me, right? A lot of the listeners know me, and they'll tell you, I'm not afraid of anyone. I'm really not.
There's a person here in the... I don't know if you've got YouTube running or not.
Yeah.
There's a question from Scott and Beck Hooten. What are your thoughts on salts?
Look, salts do have a place in the industry. There's no two ways. But punching out, 50 meg or 50 milligram, that's one thing. But there is no titration program put into play by these pod manufacturers. If there was a step down or a transition period from 50, to 40, 30, 20, down to like open system, I think we wouldn't be seeing the problems that we've got right now. As for high-level nicotine addiction, the chemistry behind benzoic acid and benzoic salts, yes, it will cause addiction a lot quicker because of the uptake into the body and how it works on the brain. Right. But it's a comparison that, you really do need titration. You got to come down and come into whether it be an MTL system with, higher level, like 18 milligram for argument's sake, free-base nicotine, good quality free-base nicotine, in comparison to into salts. But no one's willing to talk that pathway either.
Here's another odd question. And we'll use Juul because it's something everybody is aware of, everybody knows.
Yeah.
Do you know if people are ordering pods in the 50, the 30, or the 15 milligram? Is there one that is the most dominant? I mean, did they just go straight for 50?
Yeah, straight for 50.
Jesus.
No. And that's the other thing, the education here. 7 out of 10 smokers, when they were surveyed, would switch to vaping if they knew more about it. Yet we're not allowed to talk about it. So how are we meant to get the word out there? We have a system here in Australia that we're not allowed to promote our products as such. We're not allowed to advertise in open media. Everything has to be over 18. We're not opposed to any of this. What we're opposed to is we want nicotine. We'd love to sit down with the government. And Greg Hunt, I'm going to call you out again, right? You do not listen. You don't turn up for interviews. You've got to be held accountable for this. You've got blood on your hands. You've undertaken a study that's not going to be finished, and it's a peer study that he's put together with his little friends at the ANU, Australian National University, but it's not going to be finished until December 2020. And in that period of time, 18,800 are going to die here in Australia per year of smoking-related illness because he can't get off his ass and actually talk to us and talk to the stakeholders within the industry and see what we want. We'll come to an agreement with him. We're not asking for the world. We just want a level playing field. But no.
Here again, it is a somewhat mirror image of what we're experiencing here. And now we have 2 states that have introduced absolute flavor bans, Michigan and New York, and there are others that are looking to do the same thing. Shops are closing. I mean, it's this, and I have spoken to a few different people. This seems, and I'll phrase it that way because it's conjecture, but it seems like this is a seriously coordinated attack by Big Tobacco and Big Pharma in order to shut vaping down. Because people are saying, well, it's only a 90-day ban.
No.
Okay, I want you to run your person shoe shop, and we're going to ban that for 90 days. And tell me, soccer mom, can you stay in business after 90 days and not be able to sell what you carry?
Did you really have to go? Did you really have to go there with soccer mum? Because I love kicking them around.
I'll tell you what. I use it and I say that and maybe I shouldn't, but this is the predominant. When we look at groups that are built to be, save the kids and tobacco-free kids and crap, that there are always these parents, and I'm worried for my children, and they hear the news snippets, and they go running into the streets, and their hair's on fire, but they never, ever dig deeper to find out what the actual issue is. They're steered by the media.
All the bullshit coming out of New York, right? I'm now watching business owners shut up shop and liquid manufacturers shut up shop and move state. And that's going to bring me into the next part that we need to cover. The 1st of October here in Australia, South Australia, which still is the home of some of the bigger manufacturers here in Australia and distributors.
Mm-hmm.
As the 1st of October rolls around, all online sales in and out of the state come into effect. So they've taken that from our playbook, and I'm sorry, United States, for your idiot politicians listening to ours and taking on bans and internet bans for that matter. But yeah, all sales in and out of the state of South Australia take full effect as of the 1st of October. And that's only a few days away for us. United States want their MSA bonds, but no, they're screwing up on the bonds, Hoots, so don't worry about it. We'll talk about that a bit later. But we have manufacturers, liquid manufacturers and shop owners moving states here in Australia. This started 12 months ago, right? Moving from South Australia into Victoria, a state across, right? How are you meant to upend everything, move families, move homes, and set up a business in another state, register your business in that state, the whole shebang? That's what's happening here. They're taking exactly what we're doing here in Australia and throwing it back at you in your playbook. It's unfair, right? It's absolutely unfair. And I'm sorry for my friends in the US, but, they're taking too much from us and our idiot politicians that don't want to talk to us. So go figure that one out.
Yeah, they want to make all the rules, but they don't want to listen. Now, I will tell you, just last week, the Vapor Technology Association had their 4th annual conference.
Yeah.
And they went directly from their conference, and they had a ton of people. They took a picture of all the people outside of the front of the State House.
Yep.
And they went and visited. I think that the reported number was like 150 different meetings happening in one day with members of Congress.
Yep.
And some of them, and I was talking with Nick Orlando from Florida, he even said that one of the people that he met with had no idea what the MSA was. I'm like,
what?
None. He had zero.
Excuse me?
He had zero knowledge of what the Master Settlement Agreement was.
Which planet was he living on?
I think it was out past Mars and Jupiter, maybe on one of those little specks of rock. Now, the guy could be one of the nicest guys on the planet. I don't know. I know that Nick's in the chat on Facebook. Nick, if you can, educate me a little bit about that. But it shows what people do. They listen to the news and they don't know. Many of the people, from my understanding that were spoken to, the congressman, did not know what was happening with flavors. They just heard about it and they made a decision based on news clips or news items that they had heard or read, all of which were not factual. And I'm like sitting here going, what the hell? From Facebook, Jasmine says, are teens using 50 milligram pods to get a buzz? Is that why it's such a problem in the U.S., as we in Australia don't get 50 milligram pods anywhere near as easily as the U.S.? And I don't think we have the teens getting hooked on nicotine like the U.S. Would love to hear your take on this. Paul, I'm going to let you address that first, and then I'm going to jump on with both feet.
Okay. We went over a little bit of this before, but it all comes back down to the chemistry of what they're using in the salts. There's 3 variations of salt nicotine that can be used, but the one that Juul actually patented, and they were the creators of benzoic acid, that technology. Yeah, some of the kids, look, we were all crafty little bastards when we were young. There's no two ways on that one. We all got our hands on cigarettes and booze and whatever else, right? We always found a way to get our hands on what we wanted to do.
Right.
No two ways on that one. Yeah, some of them are using it to get a buzz, but then you have these idiot kids coming out and saying, "Oh, I just like the flavors." Really? Well, it's what, mango, mint, or tobacco? No thanks. The thing is that they do have a place. They do have a place in transitioning, hardcore combustible cigarette smokers across to the vapor space.
I agree.
Bottom line, there's no two ways on that one. But again, there has to be a titration system put into place by these manufacturers offering lower pod systems. But in the United States, the FDA deemed under deeming regs, right, that once they had the device there, but it wasn't in full production at that stage back in 2016, but it was designed. So they registered X amount of flavors, and there was a whole lot more from memory. I think there was like 20 or 30 flavors that Juul had originally, and they were all registered. Someone verify that. Verify that for me. But I know that they had a lot of flavors, but they only went to market with a handful, with 5, I think. And they're the ones that are going all over the place.
Yeah,
Other companies.
Juul had chocolate flavor.
Yeah, correct.
Juul had like 30 different flavors, and I believe that they registered them all.
Yeah, that's right. So what's going to happen here? So as soon as all of us guys get knocked out of the ball game, they're just going to wheel out 30 flavors? What is this, the fucking ice cream shop?
Yeah. We're going to knock over the newsstand and then take over the news world. And this is my take on that particular question. They're called straw purchase, to where somebody of age runs in, grabs however many Juul products or pod systems or whatever that they can, and then they turn around and resell them to minors. Against the law, 100%. Where's the enforcement? They want to do these outright bans, but where's the enforcement? I'm like, really? That's a whole nother topic of everything. It's just, yes, there is a teen issue. It is nowhere near what the FDA or the CDC are claiming it to be. The CDC numbers even show at times that teen vaping and smoking is in a decline. Is it easier for them to get hold of here in the States? Absolutely. They're not in every gas station, convenience store, or place of business in Australia. Not going to happen. You walk into a gas station, a convenience store, whatever here, and there's Juul right there for sale. And other assorted vaping devices with it. I agree with Paul 100%. I may not like the product personally. I don't like the way that they've gone about doing things. Is there a legitimate use for Juul? Yes, it is a tobacco harm reduction tool. Hands down. Is it helping people? Hands down. Do I like it? No. Are they screwing us over? Absolutely.
Well, like going on to that, PMTA, the PMTA process, I actually call that the Philip Morris trade agreement. And I think that's exactly what it is with the fucking FDA. I'm sorry. But no, that's their fucking trade agreement. They'd help write it, no doubt. Right?
Yeah.
They also got the ICOS system through under a modified PMTA. And we all know we've actually dived into the document and all the redacted shit that was in there, and it still has all the same chemicals as a combustible, but at lower levels. It's still 60%. I wouldn't even probably give it 60%. Okay, I reckon it's about 45% safer. Yet vaping is 95 to 97, and some are calling now out of the UK 98% safer.
Yes.
Depending on the concentrates that are being used. The company that I work for, all the concentrates are DAP-free and GMO-free. That's another issue that has to be put into it. Yeah, and there's a couple of flavour companies in the United States. I'm not going to name names because I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings or, be nasty to them. But some of them have sugar bases in them to get the flavours that they need. Right? So where are they getting these sugar bases from? This is another issue that needs to be dealt with, and that's for another day. And this is for another discussion that I've been having with a number of liquid makers and mixers like myself from around the world. We're all humming and ahhing about how this is all going to play out. It's unfair. There's no two ways on what's going on. But until we're willing to take a stand and fight the government head to head across the world, this isn't just a problem in the United States, right? And this will segue into my next one. Whoever the fuck made the decision to wipe India out overnight needs to be put between two horses and just torn apart. You're a fucking idiot.
All right, now I'm going to ask, for people that may not know or didn't read news or do not have an understanding, what are you talking about with India?
India has just completely wiped out vaping overnight. They've banned it. And apparently you're meant to take your devices and your liquids to the nearest police station and hand them in. Really? I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
You've just wiped out an industry over there. 42 million vapors. Put that into figures, people. Figures, people. Out of that, you're looking at X amount of jobs that are now going to be lost in China through manufacturing. And India was China's biggest market for hardware for a long time. We've got liquid makers that I know of that have shut their doors. They had distros in India, gone overnight, absolutely gone.
And did they migrate somewhere, or did they just go, shit, we're out of business?
No, they've shut their websites down overnight.
Wow.
Gone. Lights are out.
See, there's a lot of that. And I read the news, and I get a lot of news that is sent to me. And it's just, it is unreal how this is happening across a very broad stroke of the entire world at the same time.
Yeah, but we've also now we've very much got to start naming the names. We've got to name where the funding is coming from to destroy the industry. That's for a start. Okay? We've got to name the names. Enough is enough now. Right? Pharma has to be held responsible, and I'll call them out. Johnson & Johnson, GSK, GlaxoSmithKline, Pfizer Corporation, and then the other subsidiaries. You have Bayer, you have Dow, you have Monsanto on the other side, which Monsanto is now, that's all Bayer. Yep. These are all manufacturers of the chemicals that go into the combustible industry in some way, shape, or form. If you're going to tell me that the whole tobacco industry manufactures all their own chemicals, bullshit. You're looking up the wrong pathway. 100%. Sorry. Game over. And then we get to Australia, right? Again, a lot of people won't know this. There's a company here in Australia called Tasmanian Alkaloids. And what do they grow? They grow poppies. And who do they grow them for? They grow them for Johnson & Johnson. And Johnson & Johnson are in a long-term relationship. Johnson & Johnson actually sell the opium to Purdue to create all the Oxy products. Right? So, yeah. So 60%, around 60% of the world's opium supply or base product is actually grown here in Australia because it's not allowed to be grown anywhere else. They cut a deal. They cut a deal with Australia that we can grow it here in Tasmania. Yet years ago, go back to 2006, when the Australian government actually bought out all the tobacco growers, and they paid them out a maximum of $150,000 apiece. Some of those tobacco growers then reinvested into poppies. That's how it all plays, right? Follow the money. Follow the money.
And we say the same thing anytime that anybody is doing a show or anything. Follow the money. Follow the MSA money. Follow what's going on. You mentioned earlier, before we even started, you mentioned a god-awful amount of money coming in and only a fraction of it being spent on treatments or anything like that.
Yeah.
And you asked, where's the rest of it going?
Yeah.
And my answer was, well, sounds like it's going to the general fund.
Look, I'll say that some of it's going to the general fund, but I'll tell you right now, our politicians, when they leave office, they all have absolutely beautiful pensions for the rest of their life. They can have an office, they can have a staff, and they can redecorate their office every year, and they can fly around the world free of charge on the taxpayer's dollar. Right? It's bullshit. There's a whole lot of stuff here in Australia. You know, we might have started off as a penal colony, but now we're being treated like fucking criminals because we're trying to do the right fucking thing.
All they want to do, folks, is have a safer alternative to smoking. It's the same thing. Yeah. They're going, no, you have to smoke because we want your money. And you have to get sick so that pharma can cure you. It's the same narrative. It is a global cabal, and it is happening across everybody at the same time. That, to me, says collusion. Because
we've always said this, right?
Yeah.
And a very good friend of mine, David Gerlowitz, the former Winston man, right? We used to do podcasts together, and Kevin Crowley, for that matter. If Kevin's hiding out there in the ether, we called a lot of this stuff 18 months ago, 2 years ago. We were calling this shit, but they all thought, oh, they're crackpots. They don't know what we're talking about. Actually, we do, and you're actually watching what we called 18 months ago.
There have been some people that have been very gifted insight and understanding of how the industries work and things that are going on. Dimitri Agrafiotis, Phil Basardo, David Gorlitz, yourself. There are a lot of people that tried to tell people, even Bill Tarling with news, tried to tell people, wake up. And the vast majority of the vaping industry went, oh, really? Dude, I'm too busy fixing my Lambo.
Oh, don't start me on Lambo money. I'll call out the pricks that have got fucking Lambo money and Maybach money.
Now,
they're part of the ones that should have been in the fight 2 years ago, funding the fight at the federal level in the United States. I'm sorry. And then you got other Muppets over there that are flying around in private jets.
Yeah.
Going from vape show to vape show. Fuck off.
It's true, though, because nobody wanted to step up. Nobody wanted to put their money in because they couldn't have their name attached to what was going on. They couldn't get any credit. They didn't get any street credit. They couldn't be shown to be, I was the guy that put $1 million into that. No. But
no, I bought a new car.
Yeah. Now they can go out and buy a Yugo when this all collapses and falls apart.
Look, if a couple of the key states fall now, right, and I'm talking key states that have a very large vape industry from a lot of different angles. I'm talking liquid manufacturers and distros. If they were to fall, right, you would see this stuff dumped on the open market, pennies on the dollar, for both hardware and liquid for that matter. That would be a fucking nightmare and a fucking meltdown.
It's some distros are actually trying to do that even now, to the point where they're trying to dump everything to at least recoup their own personal investment. And it's going to create a race. They're never going to.
Go ahead. Never. They're never going to get the money back that they invested.
No.
Right? I fell into vaping. I became very, very good in a very short period of time of mixing liquids. I don't have Lambo money. I've been in the trenches behind the scenes fighting for the industry. Right? I'm a small fish in this big ocean. And the movement that we have behind the scenes is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and stronger and stronger. You only have to look at the VTA conference. You had over 300 participants there out the front of the Capitol.
Now.
And it was bam. Wow.
Now, the thing that people may not know, one of the biggest distributors in the United States, Midwest Distribution, stepped up.
Yep.
And became a board member. And that's a big chunk of money.
Yep.
Smoke also became a board member.
Correct.
Other board members, you get Vape Tithing and you get Naked 100, and they started with prepaying their 2020 dues, and it started a steamroll effect. I don't even know what the final input was, but it's a lot of money that people are taking and putting into what they believe is going to be helpful.
Yeah. Well, Fig Ramsey, you have to put him out in front of this, because Figgy and his crew, they've done amazing things for the industry over there. You can't forget. Well, you've got James Jarvis, you've got Nick Orlando, you've got Tony Aboud, the head of VTA. You have wonderful people putting networks together around the United States and building up a network to go head to head with the government. We can't do that here because the government won't talk to us.
Yep. And the ones that do want to talk to us, evidently, at times are uneducated, and they don't know what they're voting for. And it's
well, it's like you vote for this, and then we'll redo your house in drywall or something, or we'll give you a new roof on your house or something like that. Is that how it works? Nicole,
there was a congressman. His name was Jim Trafficant. He was from my local area. And I'll relate this story simply because the man was awesome. He was the head of the sheriff's department. And back in the day when there was a drug house with the steel plate in the walls and they were trying, these people had firearms and they were shooting at cops. Sheriff, the head of the sheriff's department, got into his cruiser and actually rammed into the house to break in to get this stuff done. He later became a congressman and later fell prey to exactly what you said, trading favors for votes.
I'm not sure if it was, I think it was either, was it Michigan? Someone was up there buying golf carts with fucking MSA money. How does that work?
I don't even want to think about that. Because
no comment.
No, the MSA money, that's like a
too
headache.
Much of it.
That's a headache.
But we keep nibbling into that with what we're doing.
The MSA, for people that are listening, watching, may listen to the podcast later on, the MSA is the Master Settlement Agreement. It was in response to a lawsuit by 46 states the 4 largest tobacco manufacturers of the time turned around and said, fine, we will pay you X amount of money based upon the sale of tobacco products in your state every year, forever.
Yep. Yeah, I know. Perpetual. Yeah, perpetual. But we'd have to be digging into that with what we're doing.
The MSA is a pain in my ass, is what it is.
Well, you better go and see a doctor for that. They
Yeah.
got a problem for they got a fix for that. If you got a pain in your ass.
It's the same thing. Ohio. I live in Ohio. Governor DeWine is trying to look to see if he has the same power that Cuomo has in New York to do an emergency flavor ban. And the only reason that he's doing it is because Ohio, like Michigan and New York, are getting ready to default on tobacco bonds. They can't pay them because they based it on how much money they're getting from the MSA. MSA money's going down. Why? People are smoking less. They ballparked it at like 3.5%. They figured national decline is going to be 3.5%, thereabout. And it's coming in at 5.5%, 6.5%. So
we're winning.
People are smoking less, left and right. What's that mean? That means Ohio, just because it's the state I live in, is not making the same amount of money in tobacco tax revenue, nor in the amount that they get paid from MSA money, which last year was like a total of $1.2 billion just for cigarettes, folks.
Yeah, well, Patrick's got it right. Yeah, the Marlboro Shield Agreement. Yeah, that's the MSA. Marlboro Shield Agreement. That's our new word for the week. Kevin Crowley, take that down, please.
Oh, I'm sure he would tell you, I don't know how many different things about MSA money.
No, we talk quite a lot. Kevin and I, we've had some ding-dong discussions over the past 12 months. Some absolute rippers.
He's pretty quick on a lot of things in Twitter. Alan Davis digs
he's
into
another good one.
things into the MSA. That's a man that knows MSA and has been talking about the MSA for literally a couple of years before everybody else really caught on and went, the fuck is that?
Yeah, I know. I hear what's going on. You know, we here in Australia, all we're asking for is a fair go.
Yeah.
And we would like to be able to sit down with our health minister, Greg Hunt. By the way, he's a lawyer. He's not a doctor. Greg Hunt is a lawyer, not a doctor. So I'll put that and I'll set the record straight right here, right now. Half of our states, actually, where's my list? I'm going to read a little list. You're going to love this.
While he's grabbing his list, for everybody else that is kind of listening, Patrick Reif is in the chat room on Facebook. He made a very, very valid point. The MSA prevents individuals from suing tobacco companies, and it also prevents the government from banning cigarette sales.
Correct.
Now, I've heard conjecture about that a state could say, we're banning all sales, but then they automatically no longer get MSA payments, and no state is going to turn away $300 to $500 million a year. Sorry.
No, that's fine. And this is for all the Australian listeners right now. I'm going to do a little roll call, right, of our health ministers from each of the different states.
Oh boy!
And I'm going to give you their titles. Right? You're going to love where these idiots come from and where they found them, right? Because the last one, Mike, I hope you got your seatbelt on because you're going to fall out of your chair laughing.
Here it comes.
So at the top of the list, we have our federal health minister, Greg Hunt, comes from a legal background. We have the South Australian health minister, Stephen Wade, also comes from a legal background. We have Jenny Mykonos in Victoria. She comes from a legal background. Then we have New South Wales, Brad Hazard. He's from a legal background. Then we get to the Queensland Health Minister, Stephen Miles. He's from political science. Then we get to Tasmania, Sarah Courtney. Now, she's a financial analyst, right? Not a doctor. No one here's a fucking doctor yet.
I was just going to ask you, where the fuck are the doctors at?
Right, hang on. And then the only claim to science that she has is vitrology, right? Or making wine, right? Okay, that's her only claim to science. And then the best one of the lot. This one's hilarious. Then we get to the Northern Territory. Natasha Files, right? She is a teacher and then physical education.
Big WTF. Hi, yes, I'm the health official. What did you do? I taught school.
Yep.
Are you fucking serious?
I'm fucking serious, man.
How the hell do they get anything done over there?
I don't know. I think they're always out to lunch.
Billable hours. Don't forget your billable hours, folks.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. 100%. And then our Federal Health Minister, Greg Hunt, takes everything under advisement. Right. It's quite funny when you throw that out, and people look at you and go, "What? You can't be fucking right."
No.
Well, I've got the list here, and I've done my homework. So,
unreal. Paul, we've already hit an hour. Is there anything that you want people to know? I'm going to throw one more thing out that we're going to talk about. But is there anything that you want people to know either down in Australia or here in the States?
Follow the calls to action that a group of us are up to right now. Legalise vaping, ATHRA, both of them. Follow them. Follow exactly what's going on right now in all your states and territories, because we've got a few things in the pipeline that we're going to unleash on the Australian government. They're not going to like it, but Greg Hunt, we want to talk to you. You got blood on your hands, bitch. We're coming for you.
Like I said earlier, you crack me up because you're just right there. Here's what I think. Here's what I'm going to say. In your estimation, and we're going to do a hypothetical. We've got Michigan flavor ban. We've got New York flavor ban. We've got all these other little towns and other states in here in the United States that are saying flavor ban, taxation out the ass. And it's all hitting now right towards the end of September.
Yep.
Do you find it ironic that the IQOS system is being introduced in early October?
1st of October.
Isn't that rather convenient, or am I just like smoking weed that I don't know about?
That's only part of it. One of the key points. I'd say is that I think some of the big banks are actually starting to call in the bonds. They're starting to call in their credit lines of the states that have been using money, not for the right things. And they're actually going after it in such a way that, there could be a lot of shit going down right now.
Oh yeah, I would agree. And I've asked, and if somebody later on can comment, I'm really curious, what would happen to a state if they defaulted on their tobacco bonds? Now, I've heard, we don't know, but nobody at that point would lend any money to a state at that point.
Correct.
Until they get
Correct.
it.
Correct.
So that puts their kahunas in this vice, because they still have to borrow money to pay for things before they collect the taxes to pay for the things. So they're, I don't know. All of it is so problematic. All of this that is happening is such a horrendous crock of shit that it's not even funny.
No.
And it's all being rammed down everyone's throat, both here in the States and in Australia. And worldwide, I'm sure.
Well, I'll take the piss out of someone, or, I'll yank their chain for a minute. But it's serious here, people. People are dying. People are dying around the world because they're taking a life-saving technology away from us. Yes, vaping did save my life. I pretty much said it in that interview, but I am trying to get the rest of the footage of that interview. I was interviewed for over an hour. I got 10 seconds. Some of the things that I brought out were like, whoa.
Yeah, too inflammatory. We can't put that on the news. That doesn't fit our narrative. We can't have Paul telling the truth. That's like bad news. Somebody in the YouTube chat said West Virginia is on the brink and will likely default this year, so we shall see.
Look, the two key states, if they were to fall through bonds, would be California and New York. Either of those fell, right? And then you have to look for a state that's right in the dead center, right? Midwest, or right in the center of the United States. Then you got problems.
Yep.
You got big problems. Look for a big farming state in the middle of the United States.
Ohio's one of them.
Right. Well, what would happen if Ohio fell? Ohio's still got manufacturing, doesn't it? It's still got factories. It's still got manufacturing. Does it still have a beer plant there, or many breweries? Doesn't it?
What do you mean?
Brewing, like brewing plants.
I believe so.
Yeah. So you've got things. You've got things there that need to be taken care of. If it was one of those three to fall, you got problems. You got serious problems. Michigan, they gutted Michigan when it was otherwise known as Motor City. Detroit, we'll go back to the early days, it was Detroit Rock City. A lot of great music came out of Detroit and still does. But they gutted Detroit. And half of it's a ghost town. Rebuild these parts that you completely screwed over and fucked up because you don't want to do it the right way. But no, if one of those three states fell, you got a serious issue on your hands. And the banks wouldn't lend them any money. You bankrupt a state, you're fucked.
We might see what really happens. And this is all going to play out before the end of the year, people. With Trump sitting and saying that he wants to do a national ban, and the backlash that has happened because of that, oh my God. I mean, I don't think that they expected the backlash that they have received when they tried to do flavor bans, Michigan, New York, other places in this government kind of thing.
Yeah, correct. I will answer this. There's a question in the YouTube chat from Raven. If you could help develop an education program worldwide, would you consider doing that? I'd be part of it. I'd be a voice, but I wouldn't be allowed to swear.
Paul would have to be moderated in his verbiage and vocabulary, and you might get about one word out of 7. No, it's not that bad.
No, but I would actually. I consider putting my name to something like that. That'd actually be great to see that, like an international panel of people that are like-minded, that actually know what the fuck's going on. Oops, there I go again. That actually know what is going on, and to be able to articulate it into layman's terms for the people that don't understand. I think that'd be great. Yeah, I'd be up for it. Bring it.
Yeah. All right, folks. You have been listening to Paul, and do me the favor, because I heard it differently. Is it Blamire?
No, Blamire.
That's what I thought. I'm like, wait a minute. And you and I had that conversation at the very beginning, a year ago anyhow. You've been listening to this gentleman from down in Australia who is seriously active in what he does, where he goes, what he says. Paul, I seriously appreciate you taking time. It's late night on my end. It's like the middle of the day now for you, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
But I seriously appreciate you taking time, getting together, talking about things that are happening down there, New Zealand, things that are happening here.
No, you're welcome. But all our friends in New Zealand, dig in, keep fighting. They're not going to take flavours away from you. I'm sorry, but you got help on this side of the pond. We'll help you.
And it's what it's going to take is everybody sticking together and keeping their head above water and saying, hey, we're all in this together, and we'll find a way to make it happen. Folks, until next time, believe it or not, for the next show that I have coming up is going to be on Thursday, this upcoming Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern. I'm actually going to be talking with Matthew Elliott, and that's going to be a hell of a show. So, everybody, thank you for joining this evening. I'll catch everybody on the next time. Thanks, Paul.
You're welcome.